Hello my dear friends, today we will discuss some concepts from object-oriented programming. In this video we will discuss about class, objects, methods, self-object, init methods and constructor and the destructor. So first we will see what is class. A class is a special data type which defines how to build a certain kind of object, or we can say a class is a blueprint to create objects or instances. In a class, variable and functions can be put together, so it can be shared by all the instances of that particular class. So let us see example. Here I have taken an example of car, or a car is a class, and here BMW, Ford, Audi are the objects of this car class. Next we will see what is an object. Objects are the basic runtime entities in an object-oriented system. Basically this object consists of data and the behaviors. A data is nothing but attributes and the behavior is nothing but the methods which perform some operations on the data. So let us see the example of the car. So here I have taken object of car as a BMW. So this object has some attribute and this object has some behavior or the methods which operates the data. So the attributes here I am considering as year of manufacturing, maximum speed of that car, or the color of the car. These are the attributes or the data that describes the objects, and the behavior, that is methods on the attributes. So for example, display speed, change speed are the methods that operate on the attributes or that operate on the data. Next, methods in a class. So define a method in a class by including function definition within the scope of the class block. So basically each and every method in the contains a self object in it. There is a special method called the init method, that is underscore underscore 2 times underscore then init word again 2 times underscore in most of the classes. If you have method which takes no argument, then you still have to define the method to have a self argument. Means self argument is compulsory for the methods. So we will see the example of the class and the object. So here suppose I wanted to create a class of students, and I am going to store here the name and the marks of the students. So here I have created a class. So class word must be there, class in small case, class and student. Class name's first letter should be in capital. So here my class name is student. You can give any name to your class and the colon bracket. After that I am going to initialize here init method. So to declare any method in a class, there is a def keyword. Def keyword is compulsory to define any method. So def, then space underscore underscore init underscore underscore in bracket self object is compulsory to refer the current object, comma name and the marks, colon. Here we are initializing to the current object, name and marks. So self dot name and self dot marks equal to self dot name equal to name and self dot marks equal to marks. This self object is compulsory here to refer the current object. Next, second method is def message in bracket self to print name marks on the console. Here I have used the MSG method. So here I am just printing self dot name, comma, means it will print current object name, comma, this message got on the console and self dot marks will be printed. Then after the class definition, this whole is the class definition, means class contains data members and member functions. Okay, so here I have declared only the member functions. Next, s1. Now s1 is the object. How to create the object? So to create the object, we have to first write the object name. You can give any name to your object. So s1 is my object, equal to whose object or the class name? It belongs to student class. So here s must be capital. Student in bracket, we have to pass the parameter. So by writing this statement, it will directly call the init method. There is no need to make a special call to the init method. Whenever we are creating the object, at that time it will call the init method compulsorily or the by default. So here I am passing two parameters to the init method, that is ABCD and the 30. So ABCD will reflect to the name and 30 will reflect to marks variable. Next, S2. S2 equal to student in bracket PQRS comma 20, means first object's name is ABCD and marks are 30. Second object's name is PQRS and marks are 25. So whenever we are using or we are calling the method MSG with the particular object or other with the S1 object, then it will print ABCD and 30 on the console. And whenever we are calling the same method with S2 object, means object name, dot operator and method name, so it will print the PQRS and the 25 on the console. Next we will see what is meant by this self object and the init method. So basically a self is the first argument of every method, which is a reference to the current instance of the class. By convention, we name this argument as a self. In init, self refers to the object currently being created. So in other class method, it refers to the instance whose method was called. So here I have shown one of the example. Here I have declared this method in a class whose parameters are self comma none, and whenever we have to call that method, we have to pass only one parameter, that is 23, to the function definition, because self is a inbuilt object. Next we will see init method or the constructor. So this init method means underscore init, again underscore. This method is automatically executed when an object of a class is created. There is no need to make a specific call to the init method. It will calls automatically when we are creating an object of particular class. The method is useful to initialize the variables of the class object. This init method basically used to initialize the variables of the class object. It is also called a constructor. So there are three types of constructor are present. If we are passing only self parameter in the init method, then that type of constructor is called as non-parameterized constructor. Means we are not passing any parameter except self. That are the non-parameterized constructor. And if we are passing one of the parameter with the self object, then these are the parameterized constructor. Means we are passing some parameters to the init method. And when the method, that is the init method, is not present in any class or in a class, is called a default constructor. It is implicitly injected by Python during program compilation. Means it is not necessary to write the init method each and every time. If you wanted to do not write the init method, you can don't write that method, but the Python internally call or the implicitly call the init method and will initialize the members of the object. This method or the init method prefix as well as suffixed by double underscores. Next we will see types of constructor. First one is default constructor, means in our program the init method is absent. So here I have taken a class of student and here I have just mentioned the show method with the self object, and after the class definition here I have created as object as equal to student. So whenever I am going to create this object as, at that time the Python implicitly call the default constructor and we initialize the members. And then s dot show means it will call the class method and will print thank you for instantiating me on the console. Same second example, class student. Now this marks is a variable of the class or the data member of the class, and this is the member function. Def display in bracket self, and then print in a class method and it will print marks value on the console. So after the class definition, Sunil is my object, Sunil equal to student. So Sunil is my object. It will, here I have not written the constructor, so it will by default call the default constructor and we initialize the members. Next, print marks. So to access the data member, we can directly access with the object name and the dot operator. So Sunil dot marks, it will print 50 on the console, and then again I am calling the method of the class. So Sunil dot display method. So it will call the display method and will print in a class method on the console, and marks equal to self dot marks on the self dot marks will be printed on the console, that is 50. So this is the example of the default constructor. Here we have not used any init method. It will the whenever we are creating the object, it will calls the, or the Python programming language calls the default constructor implicitly to initialize the data members. Next we will see the examples of the non-parameterized constructor and the parameterized constructor. Non-parameterized constructor means the init method is present with only self object. So here I have again taken the class student, def underscore underscore init underscore underscore in bracket only I have mentioned the self. So it is a non-parameterized constructor. We are not passing any value to the init method, and in that method just I have used print statement and it will print in init method on the console. So object equal to student. So whenever we are creating the object, it will call the init method. So here we are not passing any parameter because here in rounded bracket I have not mentioned any parameter. So this method is will be initialized and it will print in init method on the console. This is the example of the non-parameterized constructor. And then parameterized constructor, again class student, and in this init method definition I have used self object as well as one val variable. Okay, so this one is the parameterized constructor, and self dot value equal to value, and then I have printed this val variable on the console. So object equal to student in bracket 20. So here we have to pass one value to the function definition. So we have to specify here one value. So it will call this init method and will initialize the val variable to the 20, and the value of val is 20 will be printed on the console. Next is del method or the destructor. So init method is available or the constructors are available to initialize object when it is created. So there is del method is there or the destructors are there to delete that objects or to free the memory occupied by that object. So whenever the object out of scope or there is no any reference to that particular object, so that object will be deleted by the del method automatically. This del method is invoked when object is about to destroy. you can explicitly, there is no need to write this del method, but if you wanted to specify that del method, so you can explicitly do the same with the help of the keyword del. So I have shown here syntax def, then underscore underscore del underscore underscore self. Only in place of init we have to place the del keyword. So we will see the example. Class student I have created. Next, def init method to initialize the object. Message method I have used to print something on the console, and the del method to display the destroyed message on the console. So whenever I am creating, this is in the same class, three methods: initialization method or the constructor, then the normal method and the destructor. So S1 equal to student ABCD 30. So whenever I am going to create this object, it will call the init method implicitly. That is the constructor. So name will be S1's name will be initialized as a ABCD and marks as a 30. Next, S2 equal to student in bracket PQRS and 25. So S2's name will be initialized as PQRS and S2's marks are initialized as a 25. So whenever I am calling the S1 dot message method, so it will call that message method and will print abcd got 30 on the console. Same for the s2 dot message, it will call the message method, will print pqrs got 25. Then s1 and s2 both objects have no any need, so that will be deleted from the memory. That is, the object destroyed will be called automatically by the python compiler.